Welcome to the Liberate Yourself podcast. For a couple of years now, I've been gathering guests to discuss all matters of cultivating personal sovereignty in these transitional times, and now the aim of this project is becoming more clear than ever. I'm recording this on April 5th, 2020, as we are in the midst of what I like to think of as a huge reset button for society. We are globally in retreat in our homes to lessen the spread of the coronavirus, and with many opinions out there around what may be actually happening, this is not the place where we are attempting to give answers, but instead open a conversation from both a mystical and practical level. I couldn't think of a better way to do this than having on my deeply wise and inspirational friends from all over the world. Oli, Candice, Stephen, and I have been regularly meeting for mastermind calls for around a year now, where we can decompress and discuss the current energies astrologically and otherwise. This time I felt it necessary to hit record midway through our conversation because I feel many people can benefit from the contemplations we bring up as you go through your own experience at this time. The aim of the podcast has always been to help people not feel alone in their awakening and self-work, and these conversations are needed now more than ever as we are collectively exploring our inner world for guidance and personal truths. A quick rundown of my cohorts. Oli is a brilliant astrologer from Transylvania who you can find on Transmission 9 of this podcast. Stephen is a visionary artist of Anthropocosm who hails from Dublin, Ireland, and was on Transmission 12. And Candice is a profoundly expressive photographer, artist, and evolutionary astrologer based in Melbourne, Australia, and we will be releasing a podcast with her very soon. I always find our conversations expansive and poignant because we get to share our experiences of life from completely different parts of the world, yet we resonate on a level that is profoundly familiar. If you're not already, I highly encourage you to do the same with people you resonate with online. We have this beautiful tool of connection that helps us come together and collaborate on the big ideas that will move humanity forward along a positive trajectory. In this conversation, we discuss our current reality and the monumental shifts occurring from a progressive, spiritual, yet practical point of view. We undulate between themes of not being in the past, yet not quite in the future this year, our symbiosis with technology and how it is maturing along with us, and the role of true sovereignty as we move forward into that great unknown. You can find all the links to connect with my guests yourself in the show notes, and I know you will take away many nuggets of wisdom from this conversation, so without further ado, let's get to it. And what I keep reminding myself is that no one knows. Like, we can't even make plans the same way because no one knows anything. That's part of where, like, I've been allaying certain, is that the right word? Certain fears. You know, if people are afraid of paying their rent or finding a job or whatever, it's like everybody's going through it. Your landlord isn't going to evict you on April 2nd. Like, it's just not going to happen. We're in a totally different place where nobody knows anything, or basically what's going to happen is what I mean by that. Like, it's super unknown. And there's this certain like forced surrender to that, right? Have you guys been feeling something like that as well? It's like the need to, that sort of beta mind, like scrambling to, control is just not applicable here. Like, we can make plans, but they have to remain loose, Mm-hmm. There's something really nurturing and caring about that. It's almost like kind of letting go into the void, letting go into the feminine immensely. It's like she's here. that energy is here and sort of teaching us to no, be still, no, just feel. You don't have to act like you, and it's in this good balance. It's like you act at certain times, you rest at certain times and receive. I've felt this epic feeling of just receiving in so many ways.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a little bit of what you're saying, Trista, but also, Oli, it's a case of I make the decision, I point myself in the direction, I'm focused, there's no distractions, and then there we go. It's a receiving, there's nothing else to it. And even in the small moments that I've had of Well, that's the thing. I don't even believe I've really fallen out of trust at any point, but potentially when emotions are a little bit more volatile, which I'm no stranger to, even in that, it's that being held and nurtured and just knowing that there's nowhere else to go. There's only being held by this sense of something larger, and then within that is yourself. And eventually you just have to be with it. And the moment of knowing that you're present with everything that you are, it just shifts so quickly. Yeah, it's been really beautiful in that way.
I want to say to say something about these times as well, because like we talked, all of us four, we aren't exactly where we want to be at all, but we're shifting towards something. And that's again a weird archetype of Capricorn and Pan as an entity. So Pan always manifests in the in-between. Panic comes from the moments you've been in the woods and there's haunted woods and you come across something and your skin crawls and you just have the most overwhelming sense of dread. I know I'm going a bit paranormal, but it's just when you feel different environments that your normal consciousness doesn't always come across with. You're in the liminal space. So Pan always manifests when collectively or personally we are all in that space of not being in the past but not being in the future. So pandemic, panic, pandemonium, Pan is here with us right now. And it, like Trista, communing with other channels, now is the time to really, if you want a conversation with those things, you can get some inspiration from it, but be wary, because Pan talks in half truths and half lies, because it's more of a Joker trickster archetype as well. But it's here with us. Death, Pan, plague, everything. But I'm just thinking of that Uranus and Taurus and how it's all supporting this. It's not in opposition, it's not in square. It's all somehow something is happening that doesn't let reality completely crumble on itself. And those sextiles to Neptune in Pisces, I mean, yes, it makes things very viral and nobody knows what the fuck is going on. Everything's a catch-22 in our lives. It's really annoying for a Virgo like me. Other than that, I just want to, even in the darkest of times, remember that I don't want to sound, again, insensitive or anything, but it could have been so much worse than it is, even if it's completely tragic. And I saw some stories online that are just, whoa. Now we're tested to see how we face transition, and this is important because this is where reality is made. How we perceive things will make the new reality. So it's important to have a healthy mindset, a healthy, emotional, grounded space to get through all of this, because we are creating the new reality.
That's why I'm so grateful for all of the planets going into Aquarius like immediately and going into air signs, because I really do feel like we are mapping out things. We do that with our mind through the sanctity and the creative spirit of the human mind. That's what I feel Aquarius is really indicative of and really illustrative of, is that ability. I've been saying it a lot in my forecasts and everything, but it just feels, traditionally Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. Capricorn would be what's inside the walls, what's already well-founded. Aquarius would be what is outside the walls, what is outside and not known, the unknown. territory, and we map that out with our mind, and that then begins to crystallize, right? So with Saturn there, I mean, thank God, like I feel like we can bring form to, those imaginings that we have and the structures that we want going forward now that the other ones are crumbling. And it's not like absolute destitution. It's not desecration of everything. And then you have to start. It's not that heavy even. I don't know about you guys, but here in the States, yes, there's fear, there's uncertainty, etc. But I also feel very like it's a very natural progression or transition into the new, because we already have the tools. We're using them right now. Someone brought up, it was on the astrology podcast. I think it was Kelly Surtees brought up that the internet is literally having a Saturn return right now. Boom, like there it is, like that maturity, and it's just been in its infancy and growing, and we've been working with it and nurturing it, and here we are, and connecting in that way. So to speak to what you were saying, Oli, I'm just so glad that there is a lot of air this year as well, including Venus and Gemini, to help us to map out new territory going forward.
Completely essential. I talked with a lot of people now that a lot of people are forced to take their business online and move towards networking. It's like, it's not even, you can't, it's actually what your soul wants most. But your ego is like, I've never done this before. What should I do? But I'm forced into that direction. I really wanted to go there, but now I don't really have a choice right now. The collective is doing its thing, and I'm here, and we're all forced into this funnel. It's like, it's like a birth canal. It's like the only way out is through, and you have to face it completely. I love the air part because connection. I want this to, and I really believe. I think you guys have went to the conspiratorial parts, the dark parts of the internet, and just all those things that were forever now isolated and will die alone, and globalization is dead, and that whatever. But
conspiracy yoga, as Gordon White calls it, which I love.
But my heart, like, if I don't, think of that and give that too much credence, like my heart already knows that people will get more connected, will breach the gaps that used to be there. And the only thing I sort of fear is that the majority of the people will want to go back to the way things were before, but I think it's going to be half and half maybe. But I just want and desire to face the unknown together with you, with all of you together,
And take this, like, this was kind of fringe before what we're doing now, and I think it's going to be much more mainstream, because all of us are, what I've always loved about it is each of us are on a different continent currently. And Stephen said before how, and I love it, I can't get it out of my mind, before all this happened, like how stagnant things felt. That's come up a lot for me recently. Like that's my fear as well, that people will, for some reason, or I should say the majority of people will want to go back to the stagnancy because it's familiar. However, I don't see that happening. What about you guys?
Don't have a choice. It's in my own life. I can't go back how things were before on all levels, be it emotional, relational, friendship-wise, career-wise. Something completely snapped, and it's like, it's non-negotiable.
Yeah, even when, like for me, when we were in that stagnancy, it felt like it felt like things were never going to be the same the way they were, even though nobody, I mean, I didn't have any idea at least how quickly a change could come in the way that it has. But no, I mean, it's irresistible, like, to think about the future and to try to imagine it. And of course, we have to do that. We have a responsibility to some degree, right, to be visionary. But like we've spoken about already, the overwhelming feeling that I have here is that we're forced to be present because nobody knows, nobody can tell what tomorrow is going to be like. And so you're either going to go mental through stress and worry, or you have to accept just being in the present. And of course there are gifts in that too, that I'm sure we're all familiar with and we're all experiencing, even though it's a crazy time, for a lot of us, it's also been beautiful and maybe comfortable, and it's been fertile, right?
Mm-hmm. We've been like preparing for this. I mean, like I said, even with my own work, I mean, for years I've been talking about certain things and saying certain things, and I really didn't know why. And it didn't make any sense, especially like 3, 4, 5 years ago. But now it's starting to make sense. And I feel like us and lots of people have been preparing for this and have the tools. I've been reading that around, hearing that around. Yeah, we were being prepared for this, and to help other people, even if that's just to hold space, to be in service that way, to offer insight. I feel like that's what I've been doing in my readings. It's not that people are like losing their mind and need like absolute, deep, soulful guidance. Like, I can't go there. But what I think a lot of us offer is a different perspective, right? All we can offer is our perspective and what we see through that. I feel like there's this beautiful way of, and maybe that's the Libran in me, but this beautiful way of mirroring the other person's experience and helping them see a different perspective of themselves, even if they're doing their own work, even if they've been doing self-work. I mean, I know I've been getting readings and, getting courses and stuff like that and diving in even deeper. And I think that that's the value that anyone, even if you don't, offer some kind of specific service online or whatever, but even if it's just to spread that perspective that, we're gonna be better after this, forever, for whoever is willing and able to hear that. I think that that's the overarching message is, that we're going to be better, and we're actually building something that is going to be more conducive to who we are and better for humanity going forward. I mean, we stretched it to the breaking point. That really came to me recently because I have been kind of driving around town, around Seattle, and I mean, it really felt like a breaking point because it was like between the traffic and the density and the building of new buildings, and just, it was so stretched, the capacity. And now it just flows through, there's something, I've been trying like not to, be too open with the jokes, but it's like, I kind of wanted it like this. Like I kind of wanted, some space to breathe and to move and to flow. And of course it's, that's a joke. Hopefully it's not off color, but I think that we all needed to pause, like big, huge reset button. And nature's going to do that. The universe is going to do that whenever it's needed. And we got that. And I'm very grateful for this time to like deepen the practice and to meet with others. And so grateful for the tools that we have, the technology that we have, that we're refining.
Yeah, with technology, like, people feel more connected than ever. Like, there's something happening through our connection with technology that we can just gets so much more energy and emotions. It's adapting to our own frequencies. I don't want to use that word, but it's actually doing that on a quantum level. So the distance, the physical distance between us isn't that huge anymore. People are communing through it, and that's its whole purpose. It's pan nature learning more about itself through technology. That's the step forward, you know?
Totally.
Reality didn't have Twitter before, didn't have Zoom before. Now it does. Wants to play with it further. Let's see where it can take us.
Yeah, I've had this feeling for years that technology was like a manifestation of consciousness itself. I still don't really have the proper words for it, but there's something about, how the way that, I mean, the internet and digital technology works, it's its own neural network, just like our neural network functions, just like nature. Like, it makes complete sense that it would be this gift for us right now. And something that came up for me a lot was we won't be location dependent anymore. That is something that was so frustrating for me personally for years now, is the fact that, oh, you have to live in a certain place that maybe you don't want to in order to go to the job that maybe you halfway like, maybe you do, but even so, you can't choose to just live in the country or live in nature if you want and still have community. So there, I really feel that sense that we're gonna like lose that frustration of location dependency, I suppose.
It has been interesting, the way in which I've observed maybe in potentially newer peers who are quite readily invested or looking to prepare in terms of ensuring the practicalities on the ground are taken care of. So really looking at growing food and sustainability, and then how that then directs itself back into fear of technology. And so I'm really grateful personally that I do still have moments, and maybe that's more of my earthiness, and maybe that's just an adjustment period as well, or even just the actual transition that we're moving through, this period of being held back. But not having physical contact has probably been the biggest barrier for me and the biggest personal fear that I've had come up. And that's, I've definitely seen that reflected in these newer peers or friends, where technology has become, something to mistrust. But I've definitely had a shift in perception in terms of seeing technology and seeing the internet as just a further extension of what we know Mother Earth to be. We all are, you know. We're talking prior, Trista, about like channeling, about all of us being channels, and that still extends throughout the internet itself and throughout technology. It's no different. The physical hardware is different. The message and the connection, it might feel slightly aesthetically, it might be slightly different, but that channel is still there. And I really am starting to feel into what it means for this technological network to be an extension of Mother Earth and the cosmos itself. And I mean, the best example I have of that is you guys. Like, I didn't have a sense of belonging until I met all three of you, and that was online. Obviously, I've never met any of you before in person, and and as much as I want to, I also haven't had a need to. I just think about how that has completely altered my life, how that came along when Uranus aspected conjunct my moon, and just how I potentially would never have, at least for some time, have stepped into myself the way that I have, even through my studies, all online, all with people in the US, so community in the US. So it feels incredible to know that I can have this family and community all around me, and you guys never really feel that far away anyway.
Mm-hmm. I love what you bring up about working with the land again, because that's kind of part of the piece that I've been feeling too for a while. And before this all happened, I was like, how is that going to happen? Because I do feel like there's going to need to be this disbursement back in across the land. You know, and you already see, like, there's been stories about millennials moving to smaller towns, getting out of the city and everything, because again, it's just like at this breaking point. You literally can't have a regular, I mean, you can, I suppose, but it's difficult to have a regular job and to have a home, like be able to pay the rent and like have a quality of life that, you know, you would, that's our birthright, I feel. And so, yeah, I think that we are going to go back to the earth in those ways, because we do have this technology that we can connect wherever we are and spread out our communities instead of it all being centralized in these major hubs. There's this huge pattern of decentralization that I'm just so excited about. I know I've talked about it before, but through everything, through, you know, blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, you see that that concept of decentralization. And yeah, I feel spreading out more and actually working with the earth in these better ways that aren't stressing resources, stressing earth, literally. I think we all know we're moving from, with the Saturn Jupiter cycles, for the past 200 years, it's been in earth signs when they come together every 20 years. And we're moving at the end of this year, we have the first Saturn Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius in an air sign, and that will start an entire new chapter, 200-year long chapter of air signs. We can really see, especially with Saturn already there, showing us in the physical how that's going to, how that grid is being put into place. And I feel like every single person is a node in that grid, you know, or a vertices or whatever. I don't know if I'm using the right term.
In the web.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thinking of that whole idea of the internet being used in a more conscious and enlightening way, like, and framing that in the context of the internet and going through its Saturn return makes a lot of sense to me, because I am, like, I would admit to being generally adverse to technology, and in the way that we misuse it, and the way that it shows up so much of our shadow. And like all throughout the past few minutes, I've been thinking about like David Abraham and his introduction to The Spell of the Sensuous, and how he talks about how we need to be very careful about our relationship with technology to make sure that it doesn't become too much of us and that we don't become too much of it. But I think I find it very useful to consider technology in exactly the ways that you guys have been doing and speaking about now, you know, and how that can be something we can change for the better.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's part of the maturity, right? Part of its own maturity, if you're talking about it being its Saturn return, you know, there's more form being created. It's becoming more mature, literally. And we are included in that. It's not, I don't even feel like there's too much, or there probably can't be too much separation. There's a lot in that. Anyway, I feel like as we're at a good point to begin to look at it in a more mature manner. I mean, we've been in the thick of it because since we've been alive, it's, for the most part, it's been in our faces. It's been in literally like its infancy, it's growing pains, it's teenage years, it's silliness, it's negative, you know, connotations. But now that we go through, I think there will be this refinement. I mean, probably the same thing happened with, you know, cities, the urban environment. I imagine, like, that's just kind of coming to me because, cities weren't always a thing. There weren't always like, lots of people gathered in one place. But once that started, and it was probably like a cesspool in the beginning in certain ways. But then, you refine that over time. It's like, you got to have families here. You got to be safe, and it needs to be productive, and again, quality of life for everyone. So I feel like that's going to be a natural progression.
It's bringing the earth back into nature. Like, some people will go towards nature and work from there, because boundaries are going to be much more, I can't say fluid, but the fluid equivalent in air currents. But
on the mental plane.
exactly. What I want to emphasize is, personally, in my own life, I always had a rocky relationship with technology, even if I do have really significant air that is actually ruling everything. But I have potential to have a better understanding and better quality of relationship with technology, but I just used it at a base level. And I always, soul-wise, was very close to raw nature. And you can't go rawer than Transylvania. I mean, it's top whatever. But what I want to do is to marry science and spirit, to marry modern cosmopolitan lifestyle with a sustainable relationship with nature. So I really believe that all the problems, quote unquote, in the world will be integrated with the help of technology and community, in the sense that people will move further out from the city, and the people who are still going to be in big cities will bring earth to themselves, make cities sustainable, make everything green, make everything renewable. That should be the way forward, and I ideally hope that will be the case. And late stage capitalism is all about putting the individual above every other individual. And the next step would be like individuals coming together as a network. That's like, everything's the center of, like you said, center of everything else. Not in a bastardized way of socialism or other political whatever. It's just a new way of valuing individuality through networking. That's what I want to see happening in the future, and that's what we have to create, each in our own lives.
Completely agree with you, because it's about connection. I mean, we are humans. We need connection. We do need that social interaction. And I think that in the past, when you talk about, oh, everyone live, in community and come together, it would put a lot of people off, because it can sound like, oh, I'm going to be enmeshed with other people. Especially in an individualistic society. Maybe that's an American thing. We are so much about the freedom, liberty, the individual, which can go, both ways. And but I do feel that is going to happen as well. It's going to be this balance of what is good for everyone as a human, like on a human level, like you have your needs met, you are healthy. It's about looking at those things that bring quality of life to absolutely every person, yet gives them the space and the freedom to live exactly how they want to. Like, that's real freedom to me, because servitude is not freedom either. Giving up most of your time in your life so that you can have the base necessities is not freedom. We've stretched to the breaking point there, I feel. So yeah, Oli, I completely agree with you. It's not this like weird socialist way of looking at it, like we're all comrades, but like actually having that freedom and coming together and working together and approaching our economy, our livelihood, and every aspect of our daily life from that place of, if everyone just has enough, what is possible, like everything is possible at that point. Then the limitless potential of the human mind can really flourish. And I think that's what the Aquarian agenda is. The age of Aquarius is really about.
But we're seeing it happen in our own lives, be it to us personally and to other people that we know. There's people from Mumbai, like a person from Mumbai meeting online someone from Santiago, moving together in Boston and working for a company from Singapore. That's the way forward. It's happening now. We're the pioneers of that, to make that connection more heart-centered than anything else centered. It's happening relational-wise, career-wise, ancestral-wise, on every level imaginable. And it's very exciting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly so. I think one of the things that's surprised even me recently is having people express to me that they would want nothing more than to see me step into exactly who I am, and that's not even with people who are seeing me online. And I feel as if I'm presenting myself in a sense my truest form, but people who know me here, that I still find myself operating from this space sometimes of, oh, should I say that, or feeling shame arise because I'm not owning everything that I am and everything that I'm capable of. And I've had people turn around to me in the last couple of months and say, all we want for you is to step into that, to step into who you are, because it's a joy to see. And that's something that's been coming up a lot since we had Aquarius season and we had our full moon in Leo. And I mean, that did personally affect me. And I feel, that to have that space and that freedom, what that really means is to show up fully as ourselves, because that strengthens the strand of the web that we're in. And we can't take responsibility for our strand unless we're fully within ourselves and fully standing in the power of what we are, and lighting up everyone else as we do so. And it's so incredible and beautiful to be meeting people who just want that. They want to see everyone on an individual level be completely authentically who they are, and knowing that in that space, in honoring that and respecting it, that we all hold each other up and we all have enough, because we're all able to be the unique strand that we need to be. And that's been so incredible for me to not only witness but be told and have that explained to me as well. That's just opened me up to a whole new level of love and friendship as well, and feelings of unity too.
Because I guess we've been dancing around it, but the entire topic of why we're here is sovereignty. I feel like this is an absolute initiation or training ground for what that really means, which is, being self-directed, operating according to self-authority. And that doesn't mean selfish. That doesn't mean having any ill will towards anyone else or harm, but it's a very loving thing. I think it's one of the highest forms of self-love and love for others, because if you're not being yourself, it's sort of dishonest. You kind of learn that in shadow work. Like there's something really wrong with hiding something that you feel someone made you feel shame around, or whatever it may be. That's my biggest wish is and hope for everyone, is that they're finding their own sense of that. There's sort of a twist or a different frequency or energy around individualism, which I of course highly praise, but then also sovereignty. Like there's a different energetic in those words. Like Oli was saying around late stage capitalism, hopefully it can pivot out of that energy of the isolated individual gaining what they need, and more into the sovereign individual moving through humanity, community, having everything that's needed, but also not looking to a very firm like construct that was built without that sovereignty in mind, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, Candice, what you were saying about experiencing people around you just wanting you to be as wide and true and honest and brilliant as you can be, that makes me think of the archetype of the king, the emperor. That's one of the positive aspects of that archetype. Is, we tend maybe to think of the emperor as being more of a dictator, but that's the shadow side, right? The positive side of the emperor is wanting everyone in the kingdom to flourish, because if everyone in the kingdom individually flourishes, then the kingdom flourishes, and then he's a great king. And that, of course, ties in with sovereignty and the symbolism for this year too, which is kind of neat.
Very much so. And I feel as if there's been a lean towards that just generally in terms of but there's almost a false sense of this true sovereignty that I think we've experienced potentially up until now, where in the past perhaps was the intention was to make people happy within their roles in order to increase productivity. Now that that intention has shifted, and I think that's all that needed to happen, was the intention for us to not be happy to increase productivity, but to be happy because or not even happy, but to be fully within oneself, fulfilled, exactly, so that radiates out and is a generous source of energy to others as well.
Yeah, because that has been the goal of society, of empire, GDP, to be more productive, to be more profitable. And I think that we don't even, we can pontificate what is the new aim. I wouldn't even say goal, but what's the aim of life, of humanity, of society? What are we doing here? I think that we're at a place where everyone can begin to take back a certain, sense of personal power and ask themselves that, and that will lead us towards whatever that new aim is. For me, it's just a life well lived and doing good things and progressing humanity along a positive trajectory, whatever that means for the times. We got really wrapped up in productivity and extraction, and so I don't even I feel like it's an interesting collective pivot, that exactly coming back to what we were saying, like you just choose a direction, and I think we can all individually, sovereignly choose a direction for everyone going forward. And that's how the universe operates. It doesn't have separate parts. We perceive it that way, but it doesn't have separate parts. We're all, it wants to proliferate. It wants to continue to expand and create and go on. I feel like we can best serve that by doing that in our own lives going forward.
It just feels like these are monumental times. Evidently, we're seeing everything happening in that stack. But I have a sense that this is all leading up to the first air conjunction in so much time. And with Jupiter and Saturn, maybe it feels that way because it's right on my descendant, but it's all, we're just adjusting at the moment.
Yeah.
And I hope that the next thing that's going to happen, it's not going to have an ism at the end of it, capitalism, communism, socialism, whatever ism. Can we just have humanity?
Just being.
Yeah.
That's essential. I'm sick of all the isms.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Most definitely.
Well, as usual, very enlightening conversation with all of you. So grateful.
Still want to go to the more paranormal weird thing, but
Do it. I wanted to
Please do
talk
it.
about the multiverse and how we're like
Oh,
another
please.
reality where this hasn't happened.
weird. Oh, this it's
Like we chose
go.
this like pathway or whatever, like this timeline. Like we vibrationally moved into this reality, and there's another reality where it didn't happen, and there's, you know, the multiverse theory basically.
It
But
can be that.
Great.
It's just catch-22s, all catch-22s. I was like pseudo lamenting the fact that, oh, I wanted to move things forward, but now I don't have a choice because this is what the collective all wants. Like everyone since Saturn entered Capricorn, and it's like, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of that, I want this to stop. And they're like, well, you got it.
Yeah.
This is it. You just have to say how. Important. But so I was like, okay, now this is what the collective wants. I feel estranged from it, always feel like an alien, not even thinking of the consensus or the underground or everything. Just, okay, humanity wants this. It's a journey for its self-discovery. Sometimes I feel like a separate passenger or a tourist. With all of it. You're a tourist in a country, and the country's in a revolution. It's like, I just wanted that tea at that cafe, you know, like whatever, cool. But what if everyone thinks like that? We're all creating that, so it's all just a stupid catch-22 right now. Nobody knows exactly heads or tails on everything for another week or so maybe. But this is liminality. It finds us maybe between past and future, and when that happens, when you're in a liminal space, other realities creep up on you. You want to see things that normally you wouldn't see. You know, maybe for an altered state of consciousness, everything's an altered state right now. So if you want to, you know, get freaky with it a bit, just look outside. I'm just saying, just look outside. Maybe you're gonna see some weird shit.
Yeah, it's so strange. I mean, even just walking into a supermarket is bizarre. It's so odd because you have this this very calming female voice that wants to tell you to stay away from people. It's the most bizarre experience. I think I was in my house for about a week, and I left and encountered that, and then also felt I want to use the word frisson, like tension between strangers, having this simultaneous excitement for seeing people that I had never seen before, but at the same time feeling an intense like polarization, like this repulsion between actually coming anywhere like near someone. It was so bizarre, and it has this cardboard feel to it.
Either like temporary or something, or false or something. Maybe we're in a simulation. I don't know.
Not ruling it out at this point.
But it is interesting how there are still elements of, you know, if you look back in history, there are elements, and we talked about this before. I think I brought up, I didn't feel like we knew a big change was coming, but I didn't feel like it was going to be war again, because we're not there in our consciousness collectively. But there are a lot of similarities with wartime for sure. And of course, you know, plagues and pandemics have happened before. But yeah, the grocery store feels like a sort of standing, like a rationing. Not that I've ever lived through it, but like, yeah, we have most stores, you have to like stand 6 feet apart in a line, and they're letting a certain amount of people in or whatever, in and out. It's not just free flowing. And many things have been rationed too. Like you can only get 2 of items and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of where I'm seeing the past and the present and the future kind of folding in on itself. It's like we've been here before as people, as humans, our ancestors and everything. It's just different. It's just more like a modern version of it, where most of us are, you know, okay. Most of us are safe. A lot of us are. which is
Could
good.
have been so much worse. Could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
It's really serious and it's very bad, and I don't want to say it's not. I'm taking it very seriously, and I'm not trying to lose my I don't want my hypochondria to come back or anything.
Yeah, Virgo.
Extremely. I used to be very hypochondriac, and I'm fine now, but it's just paranoia. Separate plague is the most evilest things, because it's not even death, it just separates. So evil in that default sense is just things that make you separate from source even more, but that's all part of source anyhow. It's just when it manifests. Plague is just the ultimate gross, disgusting embodiment of it.
It's so Plutonian. It's like so, yeah, it's like Pluto's signature all over this. From the
Completely.
depths, you can't see it. Yeah.
Have no control over it. You can't fuck with Pluto. Your force is beyond our control, and you can feel that happening on all levels of existence, not just on planet Earth and our little corner here, but on every other level. And it's not just here where the in-between is happening, it's happening everywhere.
Definitely.
Yeah, because of the felt experience of those levels. It's it's a case of, okay, well, I should probably just start with my own little space and play in these shadows. I know I can't control them, but I can come to understand them, and then find a sense or a source of power within that little sandbox. That at least is something that feels familiar. Anyway, I think at least for some of us.
Doing the personal work so that it does have this effect. So when we begin to expand and increase our boundaries in our space, we'll be in our power and strength a lot better than we were before to go forward. For sure. I like that you bring that up. Definitely. It's definitely, feeling very, like we've already said, very much like an initiation, very much like a rebirth process. And what a gift. What a gift that we have this time, that we are literally forced to tune in within, and also to get whatever galactic information is coming through that's beyond words and language. Integrate all of that and bring it all together. What a gift. I just feel like we're in a really benevolent holding pattern. 2020 is definitely, and you're right. We don't even know yet. I mean, this year, I feel you, Ali, like that Saturn Jupiter conjunction and other aspects at the end of the year, much more will be revealed. Then we can just do the best we can here. And I think we're all doing a great job. I think everyone is doing a wonderful job at this task. We were built for this. We were made for this. So
definitely think so as well.
This time kind of feels like it's almost like a collective vision quest, where the whole point of that is to change the flow of time in the world, to change reality. And you go away, you isolate yourself, you don't eat or you don't drink, but you can do that, you should do that. And you wait for a sign, or some sign from spirit, so that you can take that information and create your life again, renew things.
It's very 12th house.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Very removed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've found myself as well being an artist and having, we all do, having the love for art that we do. It's been this beautiful question or curiosity that I've had to revisit the idea of the visionary and really, apply interest to what I've grown up with in my own life, or what I may have spoken of or created within my own life that has led me to this point And then now taking this time, this moment now to reflect on the creations that have existed and wondering in which way, like, have we manifested this through, or have we prophesized this through our artistic creations, and just being really curious about that. And it's opened up my imagination and my understanding of what's possible as well, because in terms of visionary artists, it's something that I've really been speaking of, I know, with Stephen over the last year or so, and now that somehow feels more pivotal than ever, and maybe even like we've come to a step where all the work that was done prior can be let go of now, and what it means to be visionary has become something else again entirely, or something more present, hopefully less removed from everything. But maybe that role will always be removed. I'm not too sure.
That's such a great point. Along those lines, I've kind of felt like it's like less rebellion, maybe.
Yeah.
Or, something like that. Less like working against or being the different, and maybe it's more of visionary, like flowing with it and being more of a beacon.
That definitely feels like something that has shifted already.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's definitely a sense of acceptance, or even falling in love again with the expression in that, and the potential it has, like wider across the board, like such a niche,
like moving away from rebellion because you had to, or something. I mean, like if you look at metal or heavy metal, it's always like in the places that are the most Lutheran or whatever, or the most religious, like that thing that happens. Maybe there's not going to be so much of that friction, that I in a good way, I feel like it'll maybe clear the way, because I feel that too. I don't feel like I need to rant and rave and like try to explain what's coming through as much. I feel like the language and the expression and the art is just sort of, it makes more sense. It's sort of more reflective of the times and more comfortable, free flowing. And that I really love that you bring that up. There's so much there. This has been really, really therapeutic, cathartic, all of those things. I think that not only us individually, but many people who will hear this probably may not even have anyone to have these conversations. So this has been really important, and really, I appreciate it so much, getting these. I now kind of understand why I was led to do this podcast in the first place, because I know that if people are just beginning to, or if they've kind of been waking up to their own reality, whatever it may be, there's not always, the support around physically. So I'm really grateful to all of you for helping, individually on our own episodes, and also as a group, bring these ideas and these contemplations, because I feel like that's where we are. Nobody is saying this is what's happening, but I think that what we can bring to it, like I said, is a different perspective and a different, maybe certain contemplations that can open up, expand awareness and consciousness. And that's the whole point, I feel.
Completely agree. Yeah, just falling in love with meaning and imagination and what our values are all over again. Really stripping that back, and then, just having a conversation about it. I think it's probably the best thing that we can do, aside from sitting with ourselves right now. And
thank God, I think Venus and Gemini is gonna be great for that. Like, we're gonna have all the conversations.
Yes, we are. I'm sorry.
Even though it's a retrograde, it's not retrograde in Aries. That was brutal. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, it's been brutal before in certain ways, but I think that this is going to help us all like come together and help with those connections and communication and conversations. You know, not to Pollyanna it, there's a lot of growth, I'm sure, but we all need to talk. We all need to have the conversation.
We definitely need to talk. Yes. Yeah.
We need to talk.
Yeah, it's very, very helpful, very healing. And that's the thing. We can't really talk about this with everyone around us. So we're again guided to connecting with people all over the world. It's important.
Thank you so much for joining us for this important discussion today. I'm sending you so much love, comfort, and strength to cultivate your truest sense of self and continue on into the great unknown. Again, connect with my guests by going to the show notes and consider leaving a review in Apple Podcasts to help more people find us that could benefit from these kinds of conversations. As always, take care out there, guys.